Okay, let's do some philosophy for a short time as a refreshment among most important things. Ani and Gerald will tell you practical things about universal design. As the first speaker, I will try to give the big picture. That's all. The big picture, I think, is about ethics. What we are doing here, what we were discussing this morning, is about the ethical dimension of urban planning and, let's say, of life. I hope you share with me the feeling that today ethics is no longer a dispensable item, a luxury item. We had a wave of greenwashing, you know what greenwashing is, and now I can see coming from my philosophical point of view, a wave of virtue washing. So let's stop doing technocracy and then virtue wash it quickly in the 5 last minutes of the meeting. We can do differently, and we should do differently, because I'll try to show very quickly that without ethics, there is a real danger of counterproductivity of everything we plan and try to do. So in the TU 1204 literature that I have carefully read, I found this expression, redress the balance with technology and technocracy, and more precisely, promote collaborative urbanism through the digital world. And this is a techno-ethical action program, as I take it. My research is about that. Techno-ethics, smart environments, smart devices, we call them smart artifacts, and the self, the human, and values behind it. And my take is that design today does not mean controlling the life of people, but creating contexts, just that. It's very different. So let's take the big picture about what is happening now. It's springtime, not here, I know, but it's in the world, I mean. We have a Turkish now and a Brazilian spring. You know what I mean? After the Arab Springs 2 years ago. It happens in Istanbul, Taksim Square, and almost in different places in Brazil now. And my question is about what are the meteorological conditions behind these spring. The Turkish one was started about, I hope you know, problem with the park, public place that is urban design, and typically top-down, very much top-down urban design in Turkey. The second one in Brazil comes from a public transportation fares problem and the urban planning and transportation planning and so on, investments surrounding the next World Cup. So it's all about universal design, if you know what it is. If not, you'll learn very shortly after my talk. And it's all about what we are trying to do better in this coast action, as I understand it, at least. And what we must be careful about is that these actions in the streets are fueled by social indignation, like Los Indignados in Spain and in many other countries. All these movements are fueled by maybe the last social change fuel or energy that we have left, which is indignation. And you can read this. I'm a professor, I'm sorry. I must refer to books to know more. Well, Margaret, it is about decency. And I don't know if it is already in our vocabulary, but it should be. And Castell's last book is about this internet-enabled social movements. So let's improve our vocabulary. I've heard people talking and seen in the documents about hardware and software. In philosophy of technology, we are using wetware. That is the human, because the brain is wet. So it's not all about software, hardware. It is about wetware. And there is a new trend after wetware. It is selfware. In particular, the smartphone is a selfware, something more than software or hardware, where software and hardware are not the important features, but the self and what it is doing in its interfacing with the real world is the important feature of it. Let's call it selfware or the infosphere. We live in an infosphere. And with smart devices, we have a proximal infosphere. And we don't inhabit the world as human naked beings. We are wearing clothes, but we are surrounded by this infosphere. Now, design has to be judged from the values in it. And this is Marx's phrasing of what I'm trying to say about universal design. There is a danger. This danger is technocracy. And technocracy will not work in this century. I'm ready to fight for that, to make it happen, if it doesn't happen by itself. So we have a problem in planning, any sort of planning, which is technocracy. Because technocracy is not compatible with the new set of values that comes with the digital age. To summarize and make it clear, I like to focus on 4 E values. Facilitation. Everything must be easy. Transparency. Everything is transparent, like it or not. We have seen that this morning. It's transparent. We didn't want it to be. We couldn't prevent it. It's there. Collaborative processes. We're trying to do that. And user design. We are moving toward universal design here. And user design. And something called generativity. You have a definition here, in a fascinating book, in fact. Generativity is maybe the key of the success of the web in general, Google in particular, and Wikipedia too. Maybe this can be somewhere in the values to federate coast action. The internet was something coming from Californian spirit. And you'll see universal design is largely a Scandinavian spirit. Ireland is in between. In this new kind of spirit, online social production, not only online, but I'm sorry, it happens online, social production. Here again, you have a reference that you can check. Is linked, this online happening social change is changing the real world, the way people behave, the way they meet together, the things they do and they don't longer do, are motivated by what has changed online. So the physical world is inheriting its values from the digital world. To help this, we have 2 things to be careful about. And these are my 2 last slides. The first one is on the user end, where we already are supposed to work. Values are clearly on the side of collaborative process, systematically, and user design, and what I propose to call generativity. And this question is part of the Coast Action Program. Again, how can we make every person, each and every person, feel involved in a co-conception of her environment? That's not the same thing as giving her the best environment. It's very different. And maybe we are good at giving the person the best possible environment. It's quite different from making her feel involved and co-active in the creation of it. And that's key to end users' needs. We have the means to do that. Most of them are digital. I don't say all of them are digital, but most of them, and the spirit of them, has already happened in the digital world. And to finish with, and let Ani carry on the designer end. On the designer end is my favorite idea on universal design, the idea that seduced me in. It is to say, just look, every human is not a young, possibly rich, Anglophone, male, in perfectly good health. Some of you here are, but not everyone in the street. Just have a look. This is applied to the user end. We know that. But let's apply it to the designer end and have a look around. Again, I'm sorry to say this. The gender balance is okay in this room. The age balance is okay. The racial balance, I have a problem. When I see the streets of Dublin, the streets of my country, Paris, probably the streets of your country, the racial balance of the faces of the people in the streets are not represented correctly here. So let's think about the designer end, not only the user end, and just imagine, this is called in science as in philosophy, a thought experiment. Let's imagine if the designers are ladies, old, sick, poor, and please, at least some of them from Asia or Australia, immigrants in our countries. What would change? I just want to mention one, and it was striking in yesterday's presentation by Kevin. It will end the automobile civilization and the car cult, probably, and that's not one of our least problems, it's central. Thank you, Anne, it's to you.